So, the conference is approaching the ending. We already have the prizes for the feedback ready, but of course we have a very special person to close the conference. This is the 6th Agile Tour Lithuania, and in the feedback once we had a question, why don't you bring at least one of the authors of Agile Manifesto? So here he is, Arie van Bennekum.
Thank you. Thank you. To take it on from there, we were just having a chat in between, and I've always been active in the, let's say, Agile community from 1994, and I was chairing one of those groups. And in February 2001, I came back from Salt Lake City, and someone told me later, he said, you came in, and we asked, hey, Arie, are you back where you've been? Yeah, I was in the United States. We wrote the manifesto. He said, and then you opened a session. And I think this is what happened. You have no clue what you do of the effect that things will have, right? But it's amazing that this one word, it's not just a word anymore. It's a professional domain. It's an expertise. It's a concept. People do it all over the world, literally. You get invites from Brazil and from Japan and from Russia and from Canada. And it's funny. It has spread sort of talking about going viral. Well, this is a very big success story about going viral. Let me talk a little introduction about myself. I think when you're in the Agile domain working and you're really successful, you can feel things are going well. I think the big thing is that you sense that it's not something that you do as sort of a mechanical level, but it's on the conceptual level that you feel and that you are Agile. And I've been working like this before 1994 even. But in 1994, I started giving it form and shape and working and improving all the time. At this moment, I work with a company in Belgium called CGK. We have a unit of international Agile coaches, and we help to transform, especially companies in Europe, to Agile. And about transforming people, that's much more difficult than doing Agile, I can tell you. But it's fun to do, for me it is. And I have a question, because I assume all of you work some sort of Agile, do some sort of Agile, help people to become Agile. And who of you is doing Agile without any problems? Can I see your hands, please? Yeah. So this means the work's not done yet, right? We have to keep on improving and developing and working. And the fact that we run into problems is from, I'm not a researcher from that perspective, but for me, Agile is an interaction concept. This is what I want to talk about, for the next hour. And yes, we have brilliant tools that we use, like Puppet and Jenkins and whatever you think helps you, but I have an expression from many, many, many years ago, and that says, a fool with a tool is still a fool, right? So the moment that you're not able to have, the real concept, embrace the real concept, you can use with any tool you like, but you don't get there. You get bumping into stuff. And when you talk about doing those things, transforming people or a team, that's the difficulty. My diagnosis in changing from people where they are, into the Agile concept with dailies and heartbeats and visualization and so on, is that we have to struggle with a history of people. People have a history that goes way back in the past. And somewhere in the Industrial Revolution, what happened is that, we started putting things into silos. And you know what the thing was in a silo if it didn't work? You know what they did in the past and still do? They create another silo in the silo. And then they make a document stream and a signature and an approval process. Right? And for me, this is what Agile not is, what we need to change. What I find myself is that the moment that you're in the traditional ways of working, you are working in a sequence all the time. So let's say you start first contact with an analyst, and then it gets from to the functional designer, and it gets to the technical designer, and it gets to development, and then it gets to user acceptance, and then it gets to quality assurance, and then stage is too short, but we have some more coming on. Right? And we know that when we cross those silos, we have documents, processes, and committees and entities in the organization. And we know that every time we cross the silo, it takes time, often weeks, right? Really large weeks. So this is what you don't want. So I always say when you do Agile, what you do is with the people you work with, instead of having the sequence, you turn the communication process 90 degrees. And you're with everyone there. And I saw, Matt, your previous, one of your slides in your presentation that said, on a weekly basis, we sit and we have review and we do a little estimation and feedback and that, yeah. So you have them all together there. I saw your graph. So yeah, that's cool. So for me, I'm not so much into the methods, right? I know some of you love Scrum and others love Crystal or Dead or Safe or whatever you like. I think it's the concept that brings the success. If you stick to one method, you leave a whole lot of learnings and best practices from the other communities to the side, which is something that's a missed opportunity. So I would like to bring it back to, I think, where the concept is. It's an interaction concept. If it gets boring, don't start to snore. Just let me know, okay? Just tell me. And I can sing for you. And then I can tell you won't snore anymore. So, but hey, I want to go back to the why of Agile, because I noticed that a lot of people do Agile because the next door neighbor is doing Agile as well. So, you know, we have to be there. Just briefly, now we'll check the manifesto, and I'm not going to talk to you. Who of you has read the Agile Manifesto itself? Cool. And it's not so many, so I think it's worthwhile being here to look at it briefly. Not all the principles, but the values. And then the how of Agile. This is for me where the moment that you use tools, great, then it gets better. And you were talking about this very big project. We have a software factory in Leuven where I work. The factory is like 650 people, a couple of hundred in Leuven, a couple of hundred in Romania, and so on. And if you work like this, and you have this, really big organizations and tons and lines of code, you need tools to make things happen, right? For quality reasons, because it's way too big to do everything by hand over and over again. But if you start using the tools and you don't have the mindset correct before this, and you don't have the right rituals with the right people, you can skip the process because you're going to create a mess, right? And this is not about talking fairy tales, but we have very sad stories. I don't read, let's say, I don't read Lithuanian newspapers or Polish newspapers. Most of the time it's English, and often it's, of course, Dutch newspapers. And we had last year a governmental project, 40 million euros. Year and a half, project stopped. Nothing that's come out of this project can be used. So they put it aside and they go back, here it comes, to the old software of 1989. I bet some of you weren't even born then, right? A little longer ago, not so much, we had one in the defense industry. 500 million, mind this, 500 million, 500 million euros. So we have a lot of things, so we need to do a lot still to get things done and improve on the projects. You're struggling with Agile as well. Now, first some facts, and the examples I just gave are, we deliver a lot, but very often we deliver something that the business doesn't need. So if you want to deliver something to the business, talk to the business. And sorry for those who feel offended now, it's not my objective to do so. But product owners from the IT department are for me sort of a miracle. Because if you work for the business, you talk to the business, right? And I can give you a story. I was working for DuPont, the chemical industry, and my client was the manager of the pension department. And she was looking at 2 big piles of paper on a Friday morning. We were having a coffee, and she said, Monday morning, I have to say whether this design is correct or not. She said, first of all, it's way too much to read before it's Monday morning, so I will mess up my weekend. But second of all, I don't understand what's in there. You know, all those beautiful drawings that we can make, FIPS and FUPS and DFDs and ERDs, and they're wonderful. Isaac, and you can. She's someone who doesn't understand that kind of language. Right? And she said, and this was also why she said, I can ask my IT department if the design is correct. But the only thing they can say if the grammar of the models is correct, but not of the content of the requirements, because they don't know. And then I heard today talk about business and IT. You know, and then the IT will say, you know, the business, they never know what they want, right? And it's even worse. Nobody knows. And that's no joke. We make complex solutions for complex situations. So we have to find a way together to find out the details along the way. So we deliver a lot that the business doesn't need. And on top of this, we have a lot of hindering errors. I was, a couple of weeks ago, I was in Bucharest talking to a client. And the client said to me, time pressure. You know, because we had a delivery date and lots of work. And I said, we went into production without testing. This is no joke, right? I have been in my last waterfall project was the National Tax Agency in the Netherlands. So here we go. You know, we go into the analysis, and then we have functional design. Took a little longer. Then we have technical design. Of course, took a little longer. So we have development. Took a lot longer. But at the end, thank God, you know, we had 3 months for testing. And if you want to deliver on January 1, it's very easy. You cut down the testing to 1 month, and then you're there. And you deliver on time, even within budget, you know. And then people say, this was a good project, on time, in budget. And then disaster comes in, right? Because then it's really, and at the moment, I don't know how, but in the Netherlands, IT is in the focus of the media. So we have big banks on the front page. The moment that the ATMs don't work, or there's another virus going on, or there's another problem, they're always in the news. They have a lot of unstable products. Quality is, you know, is the big issue. Last week, someone from PMI Hong Kong, don't ask me why, but they asked me what will be the next wave in, you know, agile project management or projects. And I said, most organizations are working some sort of agile. But now it's time to get to real, stable, solid products. And what I talk about today is what we do, what I have done. It's not an imaginary story. I have behind me a whole factory of agile professionals. And this is not bragging, but I'm very proud of the fact that we have teams that produce highly intense solutions that can work for 6 months without one single incident. So agile can be very high quality, but then you have to do something about it. So running overtime, why are we running overtime and over budget all the time? Do you have an idea? Lots of ideas, yeah. Well, this is exactly the good answer. Yeah. So what happens is, you know, you can talk with people about stuff. What kind of requirement would you like? You know, you talk to someone from the business. The moment that you start making something that they recognize, then the real thinking starts. Until that is sort of an abstract level. But then it gets concrete, right? So here we are, IT professionals, you know, information analysis, great. Then we have the functional design. They don't understand that either. Then they have the technical design. That's something completely out of the world. Then we go into development, which is a black box. And then we get into the user acceptance testing. And here is where the trouble starts, right? Because, oh, you know, if it's like this, you know, I missed this, and I would like this, and I would like this, and we need this, and that's wrong, and that's what happens, right? And then they go home. You know when people have their most brilliant moment? Yes, thank you. Who said that? In the shower. Yeah, in the shower. Yeah, I had a time in my life before the iPad that I took pen and paper with me when I would go to the shower in the morning, brushing with idea, ping, ping, you know, coming in all the time. And your client has the same. And if you take in all the ideas, not thinking about, how valuable is this? And finding a real good way to identify the real value instead of, I think it is, then you get it more. So I said, you know, I once wrote an article and I thought, okay, how am I going to call this? Project obese. projects grow all the time. They don't have to, but they do, right? There's an issue. So we have a lot of DNA talks where we work. We make estimates. What do we know about every estimate? Thank you very much. They're wrong. And then next to the estimates, we have the interpretations, brother and sister, also wrong, in the same DNA. And then we have the assumptions, even more dangerous, right? So we have to find a way here. So we go over time and over budget. The big defense project in the Netherlands I was talking about, the initial project started before the euro, 300 million euros. And then we moved to the euro. And so it was guilders, Dutch guilders. And then we moved to the euro. 2 years later, they calculated in the same project all the Prince2 project initiation documents. And in euros, they came up to 1.3 billion, which is like 6 times more, right? Something's happening here. So, and there's something else happening. And I was, the day before yesterday, I was in London, and there was a professor from university, and he had brilliant ideas. And I was very happy that I saw a lot of the things I'm going to tell you now were on his slides as well. It always feels good, when things are confirmed by the true professionals. But first of all, do you recognize those on top, those phones? When we wrote the Agile Manifesto, that time I was working with a company, about 700 people. Everyone had a Nokia. And you know why? You could throw them in the toilet, get them out, disassemble them, wash them a little, put them on the heating, wait for 2 hours, assemble them again, and the battery would still work for 3 days. Right? Was state of the art. It was really amazing. And then the smartphones came in. 2 years, Nokia gone. They are fighting their way back. BlackBerry came in. So, 2008. I was working at my own company. We were about 120 people, all in all. Everyone was using a BlackBerry. And 2 years later, BlackBerry was almost gone. Why? Sorry? Yeah, one of the versions is the iPhone. Touchscreens. So, the BlackBerry had the little, wheel in the middle. And then touchscreen came in, 2 years gone. We all know that Nokia and BlackBerry are big companies, high-tech companies. They have research departments. They have trend watchers. They can see it coming, and I can guarantee they saw it coming, but not being able to respond. Now, when you have this in mind, oh yeah, another sad story. I have it here. I started with some notes. My iPad, right? Who of you has an iPad? Quite a few, right? I've lectured for many years at Rotterdam University, always using my iPad from day one. So, in March 2012, there was the iPad 3. New on the Dutch market. And I got one of the first to use. A year and a half later, at the same Rotterdam University, ending a class at 9:30 in the evening, I went to the toilet, came back, you can guess, iPad, gone. So the next morning you go to the shop, they give me an iPad 3. You know what they said to me? They don't make them anymore. This is a year and a half from the first one coming into the country, so a year and a half or less, and they were not even made anymore. Now, this means, when you look at this here, the last one is about the product life cycle. And this one is about, the other one is time to market. That's with the smartphones and with the touchscreens. My mother died a couple of years ago, but when I was let's say high school time, and I was in the house, and you must recognize this was this gray phone where you watch the word, where you could dial a number, right? And my mother dialed. She liked to be on the phone with friends. She dialed the numbers so often you couldn't see the numbers anymore. That was the same phone used, I think, in my parents' house for like 15 years, maybe? 15 years. When you now buy your phone, you know you're buying old, obsolete stuff, because there's already something else going on, right? That's what we know. So when you perceive things as, okay, we have a shorter product life cycle. And also, we have a shorter time to market because, there's so much technology, so much innovation with the touch screens and whatever they think about. It's going on. And you have to be able to respond soon. So when people talk to me about projects, And I said, okay, you have this set of requirements, and now you want to change the set of requirements. Yeah, then we have you know this one, request for change. You know? No? Never heard about the request for change? It's even worse. We have the change advisory board. You know that one too? Yeah. The change advisory board has a meeting every 3 weeks, and then they talk about the changes that have been documented. In our factory, we deliver every 2 weeks. How in the world am I going to wait, 3 weeks? So we have to be, technology innovation is going so fast, globalization is coming on. We have a shorter time to market and a shorter product life cycle. I was talking 2 years ago to a guy in the Dutch insurance company, and he said, we're safe in the insurance. We're safe. We do insurance, and to deliver insurances to the market, you have to understand the local market. So the only competition we have is Dutch competition, and we know the Dutch competition. Today we have Chinese organizations delivering contracts of insurance to the Dutch market. Right? And maybe there are even companies you don't even know where they are from, right? Okay, now, knowing this, we have the fact that it's complex. We have a complex world. Look how we work here today. Technology, smartphones, iPads, tablets, phablets, it's all there. We're all working. So understanding that we make complex stuff, it's impossible to do big design in front because you don't know. You have to find out. Right? So in your development process, you have to create space for exploring and filling in the gaps and the details. This is where you get the true agility. Where we were in Snowbird, the first thing we did, first we explained to each other all the different methods. So I had Agile Project Management with me, and Jeff had Scrum, and Alistair had Crystal, and so on. So we explained, and then we said, okay, what do we share? What's the thing that we have common ground, that one word? The agile. Agility means being able to maneuver. So if I, squeeze stuff into a fixed concrete plan, I'm not able to maneuver. I have to wait on the change advisory board. That's, by the way, on holiday. So it's not 3 weeks, it's 5 weeks. But take your time, right? So you have to find yourself a way to explore in your development process. And talking about turning the communication process 90 degrees. Talk about the manager of the pension department, a Dutch lady. You have to bridge the gap. Why? Because we all have a different language. Not talking Polish and Dutch here, but I have the architect, and I have the developer, and I have business role 1 from the business, and business role 2 from the... Then I have the legal department and the marketing department, and they have all a different language. And don't assume you're right and you understand, because assumptions are wrong. Right? So be careful there. So we have to bridge the gap between people. We have to find a way to bring them together. Right? Going back to the facts that we talked about, is that if you look about not delivering what the business needs, the real business needs, it means you didn't communicate well. It's so basically, right, if I want to deliver something that you want, I need to understand you well. And if I don't understand you well, you will get anything but the right thing, right? So, second is, if you don't make the things right, you talk about quality. And this is why I said quality is the next thing coming up. And quality has 2 aspects. One, the awful thing that we know with the P1, P2, Ps, a lot incidents, bugs, but also functional disaster. There are statistics, some are a little more, a little less, that said about 50% of the maintenance that we do in operational situations on existing software solutions is because we didn't get the requirements in the initial project right. Who of you is in the IT and making a bonus every year? Because this is where you get your bonus from, right? Because software is the one and only product where you build in all the mistakes and you get paid to take them out later. Yeah, give me a big car and a bonus, right? Okay, now if you're not being able to respond, to deliver on time, think about Nokia, think about BlackBerry. It's talking, this is real business value. No, and when you talk about, going over budget, it's efficiency. And to be very honest, if you're able to deliver in a short pace the business needs and it costs a little more, your client is not, that's fine. But I like to stay in budget. I like to be predictable. So we talk about, value, being able. There's one other story about not being able to deliver on time. Dutch telco, the biggest one in the Netherlands. 4 years ago, about this time of the year, in 3 months, they almost went bankrupt. In 3 months. Any idea why? Because you're all part of it. Almost all of you are part of it. WhatsApp. And what we didn't know is that they were not making their money anymore with phone calls. They were making the money with text messages. And then WhatsApp came in. And they tried to block WhatsApp from the internet. Of course, that didn't work. You can deny it's there, but it's still there, right? And KPN is a big organization. And they have trend watchers. And they have resources. They saw it coming. But not being able to develop and deliver a solution that helps to overcome the issue, right? Okay. Now, this is the waterfall, most of you know, in some sort of way. And there are two major issues. I'm still talking rituals here. This is where we're heading. The big issue is, first of all, when you talk to people, you sit down and we have a talk. And you work in the waterfall way, you get the problem from the lady from the pension department of DuPont. Because you and I talk and we understand. And then I'm going to do my magic, right? I'm going into the functional design and the technical design. Then we're going to, program. That's the real magic, right? It's like, what's happening here? And then the moment that you start recognizing, again, what it's all about, is the moment that you get your demo. Because that's the only language you understand, right? That's the screen. That's just the end users, they don't understand FIPS or ISACs or DFDs. They don't. They do understand the screen they see, right? The gap in there is way too big. Even if this gap is a sprint of 4 weeks, if you start with a couple of requirements and after 4 weeks you deliver them, I can guarantee you have a problem. Because, this is not what I meant. And this is not what I need. And I thought about it and I also need this. And then we have, again, the request for change coming in again, right? So this is not working at all. So people in the past, having the real die-hard waterfall project managers, and they would also say, but you cannot use Agile in all the situations. And I always say, you cannot use waterfall in any situation. And it's even fun, because what we have this month, do I have 20 more minutes? Or do I have 20 minutes extra? Yeah, okay, cool. Okay, now I lost where I was. Okay, we'll skip that. Maybe it comes back. Okay, look at this. So one thing is when we talk about Agile is things have to be really different. Exploring, defining requirements on the way with an easy pace, with very easy change processes. Not talking about budget, but talking about delivering the business needs. It's different. And if you want to do something different, you have to do something. If you want to achieve something you never achieved, you have to do something you never done. And what people often try to do, changing people is the most difficult thing there is they try to squeeze in Agile words in their own way of working. And that doesn't work. So I meet people say, we do Agile. We work in sprints. We have a sprint for information analysis, and then we have a sprint for functional design. We have a sprint for technical design, and we have this is no joke, right? They were actually on the phone with me this morning. So, we do Agile. We don't document. That's another one. So you have to do it in a different way. Now, when we wrote the Agile Manifesto, we said, okay, this is just the beginning. It still is. Like when we wrote the Agile Manifesto, there were 13 different methods in the room. I think there are another 13 at the moment added to the portfolio, or even more, I don't know, right? So we try to uncover better ways of developing software, is what we said, by doing it and helping others to do it. Now, the big thing is that in 2011, the manifesto was there for 10 years, and they asked me, okay, what would you change? Just one word. Software by solutions. Software on its own doesn't do anything. It's the people and the processes around it that make it work, right? So I like to talk solutions. Okay, now these are colleagues of mine from our factory. But first of all, we need to understand that, to overcome the fact that we deliver the wrong stuff, we need to talk with each other to understand where we are. So we value individuals and interaction way more than existing processes and tools. It doesn't mean we don't have processes. It doesn't mean we don't have tools. But if you do it with the wrong people, you don't get anywhere. So start focusing on the people. So very often people ask me, the project manager, because the project manager is not recognized in Scrum, what do you do? Well, the majority of your time, you're trying to get the people together, because everyone will find an excuse that they are so busy. Right? Everyone's so busy. Okay, so individual interaction over processes and tools. And then the working solutions. Matt just said it before, over comprehensive documentation. It doesn't mean that we don't document. But first of all, we want to have a common language. Remember the lady from the pension department? We want to have a common language. And second of all, there's a danger in putting stuff in documents in the cloud. Because, you make this architecture document, you put it in the cloud, and then you want to change something to it. But he's on holiday now, so you can't. And then you're talking, do I have the right version or not? And then you get mixed up. Difficult to read, and so on. So, the moment that you can step away from documentation and seeing documentation as a Word document, and seeing and perceiving documentation as it's registered information that helps the team. When you walk into our factory, we have, most of you know visualization from the plan board. The column to do, busy, done, or maybe a little more. We have visuals for the data models and the screen flows and the story maps and the clearly defined user groups. When we get, the functional designs in and they ask us, to give a proposal for this, we start working on it for 2 weeks and we tear it apart and all those visuals. And then we check with the client if the visuals are correct. We talk them through because it's very easy to understand. It's common language. And once we know that there's, this is what we think at the moment, then we can make a proposal, not based on this document. So it doesn't mean we don't document, but documentation should be perceived as the word what it's meant to be. Documentation is registering information, not necessarily in Word with headers and footers and titles and table of content and spelling checkers and so on, okay? Now, if you want to look at individual interaction and talk about working solutions, you have to, talk with your client about the collaboration. Seeing the waterfall slide from a couple of slides back. If I want to bridge the red arrow in that slide, I need them there. So going back to the Agile project manager, I'm working with my client all the time to get his people in. And then he said, you know what we... I said, no, I don't. I don't know what you need. And it's even worse, your own people don't know. But they are the best to find out and to explore during the development sprints where we are, right? And if we work this way, we are able to respond to change. That's something else than using a request for change. Request for change is basically so complex that it's, for me, is perceived as trying to stop change. That's what a request for change is for. You have to ask the change. Now we know the change is needed, right? Now the 4 basics of highly agile people, and so we're doing an agile transformation in Romania at this moment. We have multiple going on, but in Romania we just started. And what happens is that, when people go into the change process, they start denying in the beginning, and they get upset. And they, you have what I always call it going viral in the organization, the grapevine talking. Stick to those techniques here. The 4 basics of highly agile people. If you do this the way we know it, then it works. So, first of all, create interaction with the right people. And I don't know what I have to do with a change advisory board to talk about changes in it, because my end users, they know what the value is. So I have to talk to the right people and make sure that they are there. And not just business and IT. I think it's a horrible expression. But I need, next to the business, also the guy from marketing. Because, when I go to the end and I want to deliver, he can say, stop. It's not according to, the user interface we normally have. But also I have the legal department. Every line on that screen that goes on the internet, Has to be checked by the legal department if this is okay and we can deliver this. So the moment that you meet someone who can say at the end of the, before you go into delivery, no, this is not right. Those people, let's call them stakeholders, right, should be taken into the process. So turn the process 90 degrees. Have them all in, the right people. And then I like to, so Matt, what you were doing on your Wednesday afternoon, as I understood, I call them heartbeats. I have all my stakeholders there. Hour and a half, 2, 3, maybe 4. One real big one, right? I have them there. We even go up to the situation in our factory where we create desk space for our client. They can come to our office, sit down, do their daily job. We arrange the whole full desktop so they can do their work. And the moment that we need them in whatever, moment, we can drag them into a session and they work with us. And the dailies, people say, the agile, all those meetings. I was actually yesterday talking on the European level, I'm working with Johan, and he said, the only thing we do is we have a daily. As a management team, every day we have a daily. We don't have meetings. We have a daily, every day, 8 o'clock in the morning. And then the need of meetings is gone. Because if in between I need him or he needs me, or we make a call. But we know today where you are, where you're working on, where your emphasis are, where your priors are. The daily in the development team, I have seen dailies of an hour and a half. Who of you has problems, trying to keep the daily below 15 minutes? I see one person, very modest, yeah, I have a little problem here. The rest is doing fine, right? That's cool. So there's some dogma, they should be 15 minutes or something. No, you're there, and it's just, okay, what did you achieve since the last daily? What are you going to achieve until the next daily? Is there anything hindering you? No? Move on. Yes, you might say, okay, I have a solution. Okay, we'll talk together after the daily. So our daily, couple of minutes, 10 minutes, gone. Right? I have seen meetings, there were dailies, but there were sort of punishment meetings, for an hour and a half, that people got slapped, so hey, in this wonderful agile no blame culture, right? Yeah. Okay, the other one is very important, quality by discipline. Discipline, there's some story in agile that, hey, I can do whatever I like. I don't know where it comes from, not from me. Ron Jeffrey said it's all common sense, one of the authors of the Agile Manifesto. It's all common sense, but it's uncommon discipline. And there are some things, the rituals, the daily. I had someone say, the dailies, twice a week. And then she put a meeting in my agenda because we do projects as well. And on the Monday morning at 9:30 to 10 o'clock, we're going to talk about the resources. And I said, okay, can you, because maybe on Monday I don't have any resourcing to talk about. And if we have something to talk about, I can guarantee you that Monday morning at 11:30 there will be something from resourcing, and then I have to wait until the next Monday to. So if we have a daily, we're going to do them. And resourcing is today important. We talk resourcing after the daily, right? So the rituals, and one of the most important ones, and I give you a little technique. Maybe you know it, maybe you don't, about selecting and deselecting. In the Agile Manifesto, we say that we welcome changing requirements, even late in development. So I don't have a problem with having new requirements coming into my sprint, in my 2-week sprint, as long as you handle them properly. And we sit down in the heartbeat and we calculate the value. We quantify the value. And if it's important, it comes in. And if something comes in, most likely something else will drop out. Because a bucket of 10 liters is a bucket of 10 liters. And when you throw something in, something else will go out. Don't squeeze your people. Right? Testing. Testing is for us, Matthew was talking about automated testing and the environment. If you have big, complex projects, at the first sprint and the second sprint, you can test by hand. But after 10 sprints, it's impossible. Right? And automated testing, we do automated testing. It's a fact of life. Test-driven development, a fact of life. And then we have the test, your way of application. You have thousands of tests running every couple of hours. And if your 2-week sprint, on the average, every requirement has been tested up to 20 to 30 times before it goes into production. Then you get solid and stable things, including integration. We pair program. Who of you has ever been pair programming? It's cool. It's wonderful. But take it as a concept. So when we do an agile transformation, we do pair coaching. Same thing. because, two eyes, two sets of eyes, two sets of ears, they observe more. And we work with each other's teams. Refactoring. I was today here talking, it was so great to see someone on stage talking about refactoring. So those are for us, test-driven development, pairing and refactoring, and it's all about communication. Pair programming is communication. It's all the same. So, okay. I got this slide from someone. So when it's like, here you are, end user in the organization, and you have every 6 months a release. And what do you do when you have an opportunity once every 6 months? It's like, ha, I want it all. It's like little children in front of a candy shop. If you ask them, what would you like? It's like, 3-year-olds, I want it all. I want it all. So that's what the business does as well. The moment that you can go into a stable delivery of every 2 weeks, they will work with you and they will select, okay, now I would like this one and this one. And then we quantify, and it's not a like, but it's becoming a need. Because, they are in the team responsible for spending the time and therefore spending the budget. You focus by selecting and deselecting. We're focusing on, I never work on a list of requirements. I always work on an objective. You had your sprint objective, what is it? Sprint goal, sprint teams, sprint objectives, smart objectives. So my client will say, okay, Arie, we have an efficiency level of 84% of the cases handled within the legal time frame, and we need to go up to 96%. That's my objective. And the moment that his people come in and say, hey, I have a new requirement, okay, sit down, heartbeat. We quantify together, how much does it help to get from 84 to 96? And what happens if we don't do this one? And then we can identify, is it absolutely needed? Maybe we have an alternative. Or is it helping, but no, not essential. Right? So, very disciplined on focusing. Prioritize, I use Moscow and quantification. And select and deselect. It's really helpful. And maximizing the work not done. I felt like an idiot when I was doing my last waterfall project. Being here. They said to me, you're part of the technical design team. And it were the 3 of us. Peter, Ria, and myself. And 2 desks like this and 1 on top. In a room, the 3 of us. Technical designing. Then we had a wall. And there were 3, you can guess, the functional design team. 3 desks. And I talked with Peter and Ria about everything, the children and football and holidays. Never about work. I only talked to one of the designers because he was giving his materials to me. And they got their materials from one of the other 2. And when I was done, I would give my stuff to the developer on the other side of the wall. Another wall. And I felt so foolish. Because it suggests that the developer, he has a bachelor degree or a master degree, that the developer is not able to read the functional design. Think about this. Working in this way, you shut down half their brain. And I was rewriting half the functional design in another way, adding some information. I was doing so much redundant work, not understanding where I was heading. Right? So this is very important. Agile is an interaction concept. You have to stay in focus. And for me, Agile is serving the business by being adaptive. This means you have the business on board. They are with you. And if they say, I'm so busy, then this is your job. Who of you is Scrum Mastering teams? Congratulations, you're the only one. Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, some more. Okay, so, but serving the business by being adaptive, have the business with you. And your biggest impediment is, the attendance of people. Because, the daily, I'm late, and dentist, and time, and pressure, and work, and, yeah. One of my colleagues said once, if the client, the sponsor of the project, if the client is not making space and time for his people to work on the project is not important enough, and I leave. Okay, that's cool. Okay, now this is how I like to, maybe, who of you have ever seen this picture? 1, 2, 3, yeah, okay. This is a very basic model. So, let me describe how it works. We have one team. I'm seeing a team now in a factory. They deliver, on the average, 25 story points per 2 weeks. They have, on the average, 5 to 7 stories. And it's not exactly, the ones they start with that they will end. Why? Because, first of all, they might change along the way. Second of all, in one of the stories, there might be more refactoring than they thought, so they deliver a little less requirements, or maybe it's easier, so they deliver a little more, right? Can be. Now, the thing is, how do you vary on this? In the normal way, what we do is, now I hope this is not going wrong. Yeah, here. So over here, normally, you have features in a design. You say, okay, this designer can deliver for €500,000, right? And then we have made an estimate, and we know already estimates are wrong. But it's even worse, we did dive with the estimate. Why? We're a supplier. We want to get the contract in, right? So going down with the price. And then real disaster comes in. So, we know we have to time a little, maybe, and cost. Yeah, so we put some people in extra, and, it will cost some extra money, but never enough, right? And then you get situations like I just said. Yeah, we went into production without testing. So the moment that you start fixing here the features and you start varying on time and money, almost all the time, quality is in danger as well, because you start doing less of the quality work. Now, what we do is we have a set of, so we go into this sprint with a list of 8 requirements. And then we start working. And we have a user story, or whatever you call it, and every user story has a set of things to do, let's say tasks. And a story only goes into production the moment that all the tasks are done. If one of the tasks is not done, the story is not going into production. This means that we vary on the features, but never on time and cost. We have 2 weeks, the same amount of money, and also we don't vary on the quality. This is why we are able to deliver such stable products. Yes, you have to agree with your client up front. Okay, it's not exactly, it can change, but it's also for your benefit that you can change if you like. And we have highly disciplined processes where we go through together, thank you, to get this done, right? So, and then one slide, is that all the time, or also, then we have questions, right? Okay, cool. This is, what I like to say, and Vladimir is here. We were last year or 2 years ago. This was the first time I wrote it like this on a slide. But this is how we do it in our factory. This is why I put this on here, because I wanted to get away from the dogmatic method discussions. I don't care. Stay within the values and the principles, and you get the benefits from working Agile. If you don't stay within the values and the principles, you get a little less benefits of Agile. Up to you. But if you only work XP, or if you only work Scrum, you leave out so many wise best practices and lessons learned from other communities. That's a waste. I think today, if you're really working smart, you assemble your way of working. And you nitpick from everyone. So we have in our factory, for example, Scrum for the team dynamics, so you might recognize the plan board and the fast lanes and the lean concepts and so on. And here you have extreme programming practices, as I said, for the quality of code. When we have large solutions, and we do have large solutions that are there for 11 years, and they have, 30, 40, 50, 60,000 man days in there, yeah, then we have multiple teams working. You need something now to let the teams work together. And you can talk Scrum or Scrums or whatever. I used still Agile PM, it's there, and it's covering that since 1995. So I like to use it, developing, and it's going through an evolutionary process, but it's working. So bring them together. And they all, one way or another, have those rituals. But for example, DSDM is not talking about pair programming. Right? And for example, on the extreme programming practices, they're not talking about the highest client, or what do you do? So you have to assemble what's helping you the most. But stick to those processes, the 4 basics of highly agile people. Right? That's where you get from. Now, I think I'm under a lot of time pressure, but this is the one, what helps me all the time when I'm doing a transformation or when my people are doing a project? What I like is to put this on the wall, and I said, start filling in the dots, if you can find everyone. And then if they have gaps in this model, we know we have an issue in the process, in the way we work. And not going into details here, orange, people from the business, green, people who make it, and then the blue, people who facilitate the process. And we know, if we have people focusing on facilitating the rest of the team to do their work, the improvement of the team goes up significantly. We know this, right? So you have the blue, and then we have, let me look at this. Here we have animations, right? Oh, one of the things about the analyst. So you go into your first project, with your team at the client side. And you're someone doing analysis, making together with the business the user stories. Within the same client, you go to the next process, right? Next project, you keep the analyst because he knows the business. And the next, so this guy is working in the company, in the same client company for 6 months, 9 months, and he talks to all the different people. He starts understanding their business because the business representatives from my client in the team, they have the latest knowledge, in their own personal situation. But my analyst, he gets inside information on all the different roles. So he becomes what we call the customer proxy. And it's for us in our factory a very specific role. People get trained to do this. Right? Okay, I will skip all the animations. But you can see that, you can guess that this one here is the product owner if you talk Scrum, right? Okay. My God, what an animations. What I would like to give to you is, don't go into agile development just like that. Let's use a Scrum example. We start working with the product backlog, right? Where does it come from? If you can show me a vineyard where backlogs grow on trees, tell me, because I will go there, It's good for the factory. You have to create them. So when my client says I have to go up from 84 to 96%, I spend time with my client on, okay, once we are going into development, how are we going to work? And I check architecture and technology. And also, I work on the requirements of we think that are most helpful with what we know at the moment. They will change bit by bit, that we'll see, that's fine. But I have to agree on how we work, technology I use, requirements that we think we need. We call it, this is foundations, right? We call it foundations. It takes us 2 weeks to get this. Also in the factory with the client. When it's really big, it takes us 4 weeks. So it's very efficient, done very agile, by the way. Heartbeats and dailies and so on. And then we focus on if you do the rituals well, you will create value. Focus on the process, and the quality will come out of this. If you focus on documents and stuff, you don't get there. Delivering on time is for me essential. We talked about business needs, and we talked about being there, market share, and so on. And you can do this. But the thing is, on the client side, you have to spend time before you go into the development cycles, because your client has to understand that you need his people, and that his people need to be empowered to make decisions on the requirement level, and that his people need to be there in this process with us. Right? So vertical commitment. And changing requirements, we know this is a fact. And if you know that changing requirements is a fact, we need the business to be there, because we have to find out and to refine and to prove. And if you need to be, they need to be empowered. It's all logical there, right? So the thing is, it's not so complex itself, the concept. But it's about that things are really changing. So a client that says, okay, what will it cost? $500,000. What do I get? And I said, I don't know exactly yet. That's the answer. But the client should step away from focusing on requirements lists and focusing more on objectives. What do I want to get out of this? Right? It's a journey, so you have to stick to the rituals. So when we do transformations and my teams are struggling, I always check in instantly. What about your dailies? What about your retro? What are you doing them? Is the client there? And focus on that. Get them there. Be transparent. Transparency, maybe this is the one to close, Agnes, yeah? Transparency is the carrier of Agile. The moment that people start talking in the little rooms and bilaterals and all together, sharing information at the source, okay? If you want to know some more, you can download the white paper if you like. It's one of the things that you can find on the web, but it's a nice one to read. It's about how we work and what we have done. So, transparency, rituals, interaction. Questions?
Thank you, Arie. I'm sure there will be lots of questions, right?